Hello, everybody. I'm Katrina. I work on some of the projects for the digital strategy for the Other Side television show, and I am joined here today with Sean and Jackie from Regina, two major fans who won the Paranormal Pizza Party this year and for the season finale. And I'm also joined by Wally Start, the producer of The Other Side. Wally has been here from the beginning. He is on set, and he's the man who makes the show happen. So I want to introduce you, and both Sean and Jackie have the opportunity to ask Wally whatever they want to. So we'll maybe get started. Sean, do you have any questions that you'd like to start with?
Sure. It's what get you, or what got you into producing? It's kind of an unusual television show. And sort of what get you into this in the first place?
That's an easy one. We had wrapped up a drama series called Rabbit Fall, and good friend of ours and fellow producer, the Indigenous producer on Rabbit Fall, Jennifer Podemsky, Red Cloud Studios in Toronto, had come up with this idea. She wanted to do, a paranormal show, but with Indigenous perspective. And we thought it was a really cool idea, and we started working together, and it just took flight. Jeff Richards was the first one that talked to, and it was funny because at Bamboo Shoots we also do a lot of work with SaskTel, and we do their programming on the community. And so Jeff Richards, we'd actually one of the producers with SaskTel, Max, had done a show on him. So I suggested to Jennifer, hey, we should talk to him. And, one thing led to the other, and, the show took flight. We pitched it to APTN. They loved the idea, and we started the investigation. We got into Saskatchewan and found a bunch of stories, and it just went from there. So it's kind of a really cool, and it's been a great experience working with Jennifer. And, again, it's so important when you're doing stories that are involving the Indigenous culture, that you're working with somebody that's connected to that. And, and another guy, Tom Charles, is just amazing to work with, and keeps us all centered. Keeps the bad spirits away.
Absolutely. In your career, have you seen sort of television programming that focuses on Indigenous culture or deals with Indigenous culture? Have you seen that change in your career in the way these topics are dealt with?
Yeah, what's really cool is, absolutely, I've seen it change. And what I love is that we're new directors, young directors are coming in, and we're seeing their voice, their style of storytelling take shape, come into being. I mean, we've been introducing new directors on the show, and every year, JJ Neepin is one of the new directors that did one of the episodes, the 13th episode on season 5. So that is really fantastic, and I think APTN is a big motivator, a big encouragement of that. And and it's really cool to see that. And, when you get young people, young ideas, young energy, and the show's really changed as a result of that, and got even better.
Totally.
I'm just going to pop in real quick, and Wally, the phone's shaking a little bit, so if there's any way that you can steady the phone a little bit, it'll be just a bit easier on the video.
So, sorry, what did you say?
Oh, the phone's shaking a little bit, so if there's any way we could steady the phone, that would be awesome.
How's that?
Beautiful, thank you. That's wonderful, thank you. Sorry about that. Sorry to interrupt, Sean.
All good.
I had a great, with the iPad, I had it all set up. So this was an improvisation. I apologize.
This looks good.
All right.
I never even noticed.
You didn't. It was those tough questions that Sean was asking me.
I don't know how tough they were. It's all right. Do you have any questions?
Sure. You know what? So one of our favorite places to vacation in Saskatchewan is Moose Mountain National or Provincial Park. And I know you did a little thing. I remember being out in Kenosee one time, so maybe you could tell us more about any of the behind the scenes stuff that on your Kenosee shoot.
Oh, oh man, I'm trying to remember that one. The Kenosee Inn. I think that if I'm remembering, man, I'm going through the memory banks. We've shot so many episodes, and I think husband and wife owned that. Is that right?
Mhm.
I think so. It's been a while too. I know it's probably an earlier season, but it was
Yeah,
one of those things you go
if it's
there.
one I remember, it's really cool because they were drawn to one of the rooms in the inn, and the, if I remember it correctly, they were connecting with a spirit that had a presence in the room. I mean, I remember some tears. I remember that it was bittersweet. It was kind of you know tough that they encountered a spirit that they didn't really know who it was, and there's some sadness involved there. But I think in the end, I think they were able to help that spirit move on, or at least I can't. It's kind of hard to remember all the details of it.
It's all
But
good.
there's been so many, and there's a lot that stand out. That one, I apologize. I don't remember
For sure.
as well. Yeah.
What are some of the technical challenges with taking these sites that are not designed to be television sets and trying to film a quality show in some of these sets? I would imagine it must pose some challenges.
Oh yeah, everything. We do a lot of the investigation, like where the show really takes off is in the night investigation. And I remember we were at Muskowhegan, it's a residential school, and it was a big building, and I was there for that. Actually, Katrina was there for part of that too, as well. And our cameras our communication with the cameras is all wireless, right? And they were on the floor below us, and we had no communication. We had the communication kept breaking down. But one of the good things is the crew, the team that's working. There's always two camera people shooting. They're shooting on infrared, so they can see at night. So the camera can pick up everything, and sound person, and then of course the two hosts, and they just ran with it. You'd like to, as you're directing the show, you like to give some some direction to certainly with the cameras, make sure they go in on the close-ups, and maybe we get that ask that question again to make sure it's clear. But I find that with Jeff and Michaela and the camera people, they just are in the moment, and they get the stuff that you need. But it's always a worry, when you're not having any control over it. You're worried that we're missing stuff that we're not getting, because we always have to be thinking about the audience. In the moment you're covering what's going on, but you really want to get it from all angles so that you got the close-up, so the audience has the experience like they're right there. So I guess that's one of the frustrating things, is that
For sure.
we don't always have the ability to, because we really respect the moment and respect the space. So you don't want to crowd a whole bunch of people into that. And
Right.
So inevitably, the director and the rest of the team have to be away from the action. And so you are limited by some of that technology, the wireless technology, in a bigger building and a brick building, right?
For sure. So most of my friends, no, it's great. So most of my friends who went into film production, they ended up moving to Toronto, to LA, to New York. Very few of them moved to the prairies. What are some of the challenges with running a show from the prairies? And then on the other side, how has APTN helped you do film production, or television production? And I guess what I'll call a non-traditional, hopefully it's okay to call it that, a movie and film setting.
Yeah. Well, I Lebanon, Saskatchewan, grew up here, grew up in Saskatoon, and so, and I've been doing film for, over 30 years. So
30 years, eh?
very, very committed to doing it here.
That's awesome.
And it's been hard, when we started, I owned a company before we started, Angel Entertainment. Angel Entertainment, Bamboo Shoots are one and the same thing. Angel Entertainment is the production side, or is the producing side, and Bamboo Shoots is the production arm of the company. And in 2000, when Bob Crow, unfortunately he passed away a year ago. When we started the company in 2000, our goal was just to do long form. We did quite a few feature films, and we also did drama series, mentioned Rabbit Fall. But with the tax credit, that changed everything. And our niche, we had developed a great relationship with APTN. And so the only thing that we could finance was doc series, because the funding was limited. But so, to your first question, it's just my personal commitment to this province and to this craft that keeps me here. And we found a way, and I think everybody that's still here has found a way somehow to keep doing it. And our savior was, having developed the relationship with APTN, and we had created a very successful drama series with them, and we couldn't continue that because when the funding, funding dried up. Right. And so we were able to migrate into doing this fantastic series called The Other Side. They liked our work, and so they gave us an opportunity to do the show with them. And it's just been a great marriage.
That's wonderful.
Kept at it.
And I'm glad you did.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, I got a question for you.
Please.
What is it that that drew you to this show? What do you like about it?
It's a different show. There's nothing like that on television, period. Yeah. In terms of, a lot of these ghost shows and some networks are a dime a dozen, but one that's got it's local, first of all, being from Saskatchewan, or at least the first seasons were very local. It also was a way to, what I like about APTN is it's a way to connect with some pieces of Indigenous culture in a way that's respectful, in a way that is educational, in a way that's helpful, right? In terms of looking at those sorts of issues. It's sort of, you sort of have the frame of a traditional ghost show told in a whole new context. And I think it's thinking about things in a new way, right? That's been really intriguing for me, for sure. Right? Yeah. And then it's entertaining, let's be honest, right?
What's that?
And then it's entertaining, right?
Good. Yeah. That's great, because those are some of the things that we've really tried to resonate to. Respect is a big thing, and that's, we're very much guided by Tom and that we approach spirits. We're not yelling at them and challenging them. We're very respectful.
That'd be a show, though.
What's that?
I mean, Tom Yells at Ghosts would be a show. I'd watch that.
Hey, you never know.
I want a royalty. I want a producer credit.
I'm going to be working with Tom on another show. It's just being pitched. It's because Tom is an amazing character. He is very committed to search and rescue in the north.
I heard that, yeah.
And so when people go missing up there, Tom is the person that when the RCMP have given up, families turn to him. He's got a whole team and that spring to action, as do the people in that community. And his search techniques. He's a tracker, and so is the team, and it's an amazing story.
Wonderful.
So
Wonderful. I look forward to when watching it with your talents and with Tom personality. I have one last question for you, if it's okay.
Yeah, I love. Yeah, this we could do this all night.
Sure. No.
All right, go ahead.
As you mentioned, someone who cares about Saskatchewan, I care about Saskatchewan too. And Jackie and I are involved in some charities. And one of the things I'm involved in is Regina Symphony Orchestra, and we do some Indigenous outreach. And in conversations with your staff, one thing that we did do for our pizza party is we put out a jar for some donations in honor of Bob Crow. We were going to give a donation for Indigenous music outreach. For him, and we did make some good dough, and donations came tonight as far away from Winnipeg online into retransfer. So we'll be able to donate some money to the symphony and to do Indigenous outreach with children and with communities and whatnot. That's a big part of the mission. I sit on the board of that organization, and one thing I wanted to do was sort of and looking up Bob Crow and all these things that. In the work that he's done, I kind of feel like in a very extended way, although I've never met Bob, I've sort of, there's a connection here. And what I'm curious about is if you could tell me about Bob for a few seconds, of what kind of guy he was. And
lots of stories where to begin. Bob was my lawyer in my previous company. I owned Cinepost Productions. And when I sold that company, Bob said, what are your plans? And I said, well, I wanted to get into long form. And he looked at me, he said, you want a partner? And I looked at him, I said, what? Are you crazy? You'd give up your law practice, because he was a busy guy. And, he was making a lot of dough at that. And I said, you're going to give that up to come, go in the film? And he said, absolutely. He articled on a film set when he graduated from law school, and he fell in love with the industry, and he never quite left it. And I think that's why he was our lawyer, because he did a lot of the work for free. And we were his pro bono client, and so he had always kept his foot in the door. And then we right out of the gate, we got busy doing projects, and I was. It was funny. This one day, we were phoning each other daily. He was in Los Angeles doing a feature film, and I was up in Saskatoon doing a pilot for Rabbit Fall. And he called me, and the crew had went on strike. There had been a rumor that the production didn't have any money, and they weren't going to get paid. So here he was. He shows up for set, and everybody's refusing to go to work unless they're paid right then. Yeah. So he had to run out to the bank, get cash, and pay everybody that day, or no film. It was just a completely different world. Here I had people that are working next to nothing, right?
Yeah.
Because they believed in the pilot, so they were committed, and they do anything. I mean, we built a set overnight. We had to build this little shed, and it had to be done that night. And people worked around the clock to build this set, this little shed. And we had locations for next to nothing, and Bob was paying $10,000 and $15,000 a day for some of the locations. It was ridiculous. So completely different problems, but he pulled it off. He got the film done. It's called Shadow Puppets, and I got the the pilot for Rabbit Fall, which became the series. And so we've been through a lot of different situations. But Bob and I, we always landed on the same page. We may have, took a circuitous path, and we may not have agreed all the time, but we always end up landing on the side of, well, what's the best story? How do we create the best story? And I miss him. But yeah, He was a good guy, a great partner.
That's great to hear. I'm glad we could give a donation in his honor. I hope we've honored his memory.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, fantastic.
That was a really, really wonderful ending of this call, because we're, talking about a wonderful person who was part of the beginning of a wonderful series. And thank you so much, Wally, for sharing your experiences. And
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I really
so
enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you, Sean and Jackie. And I'm really glad that, great questions, and really glad to have moms like you.
Thank you.
All right.
We'll end the
Thanks for
call now.
enjoying the show. Thanks for all those great questions.
Thank you. Have a great night in Saskatoon and stay warm.
Actually, I gotta ask one last question though. So now that you've been in all these situations where you've been dealing with spirits and stuff, what's the one piece of advice you'd give us, or that you may for interacting with spirits, that you've taken away from your time working in this show?
Oh, I don't know if I can be offering advice. I can just say, I started out being quite a skeptic when it came to. I've only had one experience in my life that I never chalked up to any spirit, but on reflection, I feel it was. And I over the course of 5 seasons, I got to say that the skeptic in me has changed completely. I accept that there are spirits, and I think that we do a good job of contact, and there's some pretty cool messages that we've got. I remember we did Headingley Cemetery in Manitoba. I don't know, do you know that, Sean? Yeah, it's where it's next to the Headingley Penitentiary, and they'd the prisoners that got hung, they put them in a grave outside of the penitentiary, and they had to move it because the Red River was rising and these coffins were being exposed. So they moved them out in the middle of this field, this farmer's field. We made contact with this one prisoner. It was interesting. There was 3 of them hung for this horrific deed where they had killed this older woman, like she was in her 70s, and they killed her for like $5. But there was, in a picture that we had of them, sorry, this is a really long answer, I apologize. In this picture, there was 2 that looked really guilty and 1 that just didn't look guilty. You can believe that. He was the one we contacted. He's the one that we said, do you have a message for the rest of us? And he said, love more.
Wow.
I always reflect on that. I thought it was a kind of a cool message. And so throughout this experience, I guess I've come to believe that there are spirits. I don't know why they're still here. I don't have any answers for that, but I know that they are here, and they're around us. And I guess, if you look at it from an Aboriginal perspective, that's what they believe, that there's spirits in the trees, and spirits exist, and so we have to accept that, and every once in a while they all remind us that they're there.
You've both been very
great insight.
You've both been very generous with your time. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah, and thank you for doing this, and thanks for your support for the symphony and for that fundraising on Bob's behalf. Fantastic, man.
Nope.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
All right.